So how many types of joints actually are there? Well, let me answer that straight away. There are 3 joint types. So that's the end of that. No, let's take it a little bit further. There are 3 joint types, and I'm going to take you through them. So let's get started straight away. Have a look at this image there. What a fine-looking person that is. And you'll see that they've got a kind of green sternum here. And I want to introduce you guys to the idea of what we would call a fixed joint, a fixed joint. I'm also going to refer to it as, and look at the spelling here, I'll go really cautiously so it's nice and clear, immovable joint. So this is an immovable joint, and we also call it a fibrous joint. So why have one word when you can have 3? There are those 3. Now, what do we mean by a fibrous joint? Well, first of all, there is no movement. So let's just go through this. There is no movement. At least there's no skeletal movement, so skeletal muscle movement. We're not manipulating this. I mean, it can move if someone's hitting the chest hard enough with something, but basically it doesn't move. You've also got fibrous sort of connections here between itself and other bones, in this case the clavicle. Okay, so we've got this fixed, non-moving, immovable, fibrous, and the reason we call it fibrous is the attachment is fibrous. The connective tissue is actually fibrous. Okay, so that's useful. Now, I've given an example here of the sternum. That's a great example to use. But some of the classic ones would be things like the cranium. Okay, the cranium. The cranium has these kind of, I don't know if you can see it on here, but we have these kind of sutures on the cranium, okay, and the cranium is kind of fused together. You may be aware of, for example, that children at birth, they're not fused actually. Therefore, the reason that's to allow the head to be able to be pushed through the cervix and the vagina and be able to actually move and be manipulated, so it can sort of reform and it solidifies and becomes fibrous after birth. I did read somewhere how long that takes. Of course, it varies per person. I think it's a little while. I think it's more than days. I mean, don't quote me on that because I wasn't thinking about it until just now. The other one I want to mention to you, which I think is a nice one for you to be aware of, is the joint between your tibia and your fibula. Okay, your fibula. These are fused together with fibrous tissue. If you think about the equivalent joint in your arm, your radius and ulna, your radio-ulnar joint, you can actually pivot that and turn that. Okay, because it's not a fibrous joint. But the one in your leg, I mean, don't try, but you won't be able to twist your tibia around your fibula or vice versa. That can't be done. Okay, so there's our immovable fibrous fixed joints. Good. Let's take it a bit further. Here we go. What a fella! Goodness me, look at that. That's almost a pose from Skeleton Boy there. I don't know why it's a boy, but it's sort of seen. I don't know why I think it's a boy, but you know what I mean. This one here is what we would describe as a slightly movable joint. Okay, slightly movable. We also refer to these as, look at spelling, cartilaginous. A cartilaginous joint. Why? Because our vertebrae, remember with vertebrae, but by the way, guys, vertebrae, this is the plural like this, yeah, vertebrae. If I was doing the singular of the backbone, it would be vertebra. Okay, notice the different ending. Brae is the plural. So you notice here we have got this cartilaginous tissue. We refer to them as discs, of course, in between each of these vertebra, and that makes this a cartilaginous joint. So really, you can put spine, or you can put backbone, or refer to it as you want to, but that spinal column would be a nice way to put that. So we've got these slightly movable joints. That's a nice example. But really, and get ready for not having a skeleton, this is where I really want us to focus our attention. Now, I did wonder when I chose this image for this particular tutorial, I did wonder if you guys would find that image a little bit humorous. He's sort of squatting in a certain pose. But what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about certain types of joints as freely movable, which makes sense given what we've just talked about, immovable, slightly movable. Now, freely movable, or what we refer to as synovial joints. Now, I'm not going to get into synovial cavities, membranes, and fluids just now. We'll leave that for another tutorial. But these are a group of joints that have shared characteristics, although they have differences as well. And I really want to introduce you to 2 groups of these. Group 1 is here and here. Okay, so let's say that is group 1. Okay, so group 1 is those red ones there. And I also want to introduce you to group 2. And group 2, okay, I'm going to show you is, whoops, what's happened there? I'm going to show you is here, and is here. Okay, now I'm pretty sure you could name all of those joints: shoulder, hip in red, elbow, knee and ankle in blue or purple, whatever that is. But the point I would like to make to you guys is we're going to have a big focus on two groups of joints. So we're going to focus on what are referred to as the hinge joints. Which of the colours that I just drew, sort of sketched onto that illustration there, which of those do you think are hinge joints? And if you're saying to me, James, I think it's the blue ones, you would be tick, 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 correct. Those are hinge joints, okay? Hinge joints. So we are talking about with hinge joints, we are talking about the elbow, the knee, and we are talking about the ankle. Now they are different, but they have shared characteristics. One of the key characteristics is that they move effectively in the same way. You know, we can see here from this here, which is flexion at the knee. Well, our elbow is also capable of extension as it is now, or flexion if it was bent. It's the same sort of notion. Same with our ankle. Okay, we call it slightly different things, we'll come to that, but we've effectively got flexion and extension. We call it plantar flexion and dorsiflexion, but that's for another day. So we've got that grouping. And the other grouping I want to make you aware of is, of course, our number 2s here, and this is what we refer to as our ball and socket joints, and for obvious reasons too, as will become revealed as we make progress down this course. But with our ball and socket joints, we are talking about the shoulder, and we are talking about the hip. And I should be clear, guys, we are literally talking about the top of the femur. If we sketch the femur in here, okay, it would literally have a ball on top. It's actually got a couple of other features on there as well. It's kind of got like a sticky outy bit. It's called the greater trochanter. We're not going to talk about that. But the top of it is a ball. If we look at your humerus as well, the top of it is literally a ball, and it sits in a socket. So it sits in a socket here and it sits in a socket here. And we'll come back to that in due course. But those are our ball and socket joints, and the shoulder and the hip are examples. Hope that's useful. Cheers.